personalities, and they will.
All right, you were listening to the French Interior Minister outline what will be a day of peace tomorrow in Paris that will draw, they are saying, more than 1 million individuals, including the leaders of Great Britain and Italy, Switzerland, and a host of others. A very large gathering. The country is talking up, beefed up security for that. There's even been talk in France about beefing up their terror security in light of the attacks last week. Bill Johnson, the former head of Heinz, says that that's probably a good idea, something we should be considering in this country as well. But, you know, Bill, we're drawing back from that. We're going the opposite direction. What do you make of that?
Well, a couple of things, Neil. One, the threat is increasing, and the resources and ability to respond to that threat are decreasing because we're so concerned about social issues and redistribution of wealth and income inequality and the green issue and so forth. But the reality is the government's primary role and the primary reason it was put in place is to protect American citizens. And I don't think that they're doing a very good job of that. I think the willful naivety about this entire issue and the way that people are speaking about it and the lack of leadership, frankly, all over the world in dealing with it, with the possible exception of the Egyptian president, who made very strong statements the other day, is really kind of concerning, and it really ought to have Americans' attention, but unfortunately, I'm not sure it does.
I just don't know if this was the week to be talking up things like, you know, free colleges for kids or more housing aid. Leaving aside the fact we're broke, we don't have the money, we got to get our priorities straight, right?
Absolutely. In the first place, there's no such thing as free college. Somebody's going to pay for it, and typically it's going to be the middle class who once again gets hit because there seems to be this lack of understanding or insight into the pressures on the middle class right now. But I think the other thing, Neil, that we all have to recognize is that during periods of crisis, leadership steps up and talks to people and takes them through it. I was appointed chairman or became chairman of Heinz on the day of 9/11/2001, and we had 3,000 people scheduled to come to our annual meeting. And you talk about having to deal with an issue on the first day of my chairmanship.
Wow.
I mean, those are the kinds of things that leaders get paid to do, and they're the kinds of things that great men step up to. I just don't see it, unfortunately.
You know, we had early reports, if I can be crass, to look at the economic side of this, that said a lot of French refused to leave their homes. The stores were empty, restaurants were empty. That's obviously going to show up in numbers down the road. So it obviously does what terrorists wanted to do. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's crippling and paralyzing, and it eventually will hit the economy, particularly if there's repeat and random acts of these kinds of violence. And I think it eventually does have a very debilitating impact on the economy. If you remember 9/11, 9/11 had an incredible impact on the economy. The markets were shut for about 7-8 days. And I think repeatedly over time, this will cause people to cocoon. They'll stay in their homes. They're not sure what to do, where it's safe to go out. And it ultimately will have an impact on the economy. And again, we're in a global economy, so we're all interrelated. And I think eventually that those pressures we'll all pay a price for.
Amazing. I had forgotten, Bill, that you had taken over on 9/11. I should have known that. Bill Johnson, the former Heinz CEO, that was then, this is now.